Is Isai. Today I will be speaking upon the topic of child labor. So imagine growing up, not really living a childhood. You start working around the age of, let's say, for example, six. You're doing really hard work. You're working long hours, not really enjoying your childhood. Not having fun like you're supposed to, not enjoying your youth. Instead you're working like a hard adult would. Today, around 15 million kids will have memories of a childhood like that, and this is due to child labor. And child labor is when children under the ages of 16, 15 in some other countries are working long hours, and are working long hours to help support others, or they're being abused because they're young and they don't have a voice. And further researching this topic, I have been able to learn more about child labor and the way it works. And I've when I visited my homeland, I've heard stories about it, and have heard stories about it from personal children that were going through it at that time. By learning more about this topic, we will learn. By learning more about this topic, you will become more aware of child labor and how it becomes a problem in the world. Not only in the world, but here in the United States as well. Here in the United States as well, where it's supposedly illegal, but it still happens. And today, the 3 points I would like to talk about in terms of child labor is how it affects education. Second, I will talk about the health issues it causes on the child. And third, I will talk about real life stories, factual stories from children who have gone through child labor, and end it with a solution. So, for education, in an article written by Kathleen Beagle called "The Consequences of Child Labor," written during the fall of 2008, published by the World Bank Digest, she states that children who are under child labor are not able to get the education they deserve when they were young, and because of that, they're less likely to get an education when they're older, because they missed the fundamental part of their education when they were younger. So once they are older, they just keep on working instead of getting that education that they deserve. And to me, no one has the right to take away your education from you. The only person that has the right to take away an education from you is yourself. You're the only one that can say, "Oh, I don't want an education, not right for me." Someone else should not make that decision. It's upon that other person. It's upon yourself to make that decision. And as stated, an education is needed. Is really needed to live in this day and age, especially. I mean, we're all here trying to obtain that education. Okay, and then my second topic that I would like to touch on about is the health issues that child labor causes on the actual children involved with it. In an article published by Patrick Emerson, who is a professor of economics at Oregon State University, he states in an article, "Is child labor harmful?" He states the pros and cons of child labor, so he remains neutral and unbiased throughout his whole page. One point that he made is that child labor, one positive point that he made is that child labor helps the child make connections, learn how to work in the workforce, and learn how to work in the workforce. Is making connections in the workforce really worth missing an education that young, or even enjoying your youth when you're that young? Is making money, not even a lot of money, really worth working at a young age? Just something to throw out there. All right. Yeah. So that's a picture of just an older picture of children just working in a factory. And another article published, Child Labor and Health, prepared by Robin Bennett, published by the University of Iowa. he states the negative factors of child labor and what it physically does to children. He states how when children are working, they are more likely to absorb the chemicals and carry it along with them throughout their whole lifetime, throughout their whole lifespan, as opposed to getting it in their adult years. They carry it with them throughout their lives. He also states that your body, since you're doing very strenuous, hard work, your body starts to not grow. Instead of growing out, it starts to collapse on itself, causing very bad skeletal growth and muscle growth. He states all that, and the children that were. He also states that the children that were involved in child labor have had problems in their whole life as they were growing up. Now that I've talked to you about the health issues of child labor, I would like to talk to you about two factual stories of victims of child labor with a solution at the end. In an article published by the New York Times on January 12, 2016, called "A Guardian is Accused of Holding Two Captives Under Child Labor," written by Rick Vorhaus, a lady called Young Soon Park promised a couple of parents in South Korea that if they send their children to the United States, that she will have their children get an education and live right, and live right. And this happened, and she got two kids, two siblings, a girl and a boy, and they moved to Queens, New York. And as soon as they arrived, she cut all ties with the actual family from South Korea and put them to work right away. So, and when they arrived, they were in elementary school, and it wasn't until high school that the female actually was noticed, that the female complained about bruising and markings on her body, and markings on her body that they finally caught Mrs. Park, and she was convicted of child labor in the United States. So not only does it happen in the United States, not only does it happen around the world, it also happens in the United States. Another story that I want to share with you is an American company called Monsanto Beans that also has child labor in India. In an article published by Forbes magazine on February 8, 2008, called "Child Labor" by Megha Bari, she speaks about a specific child called Ramula Naga, who works in the fields of Monsanto in India, and she speaks about how Ramula has to lie about her age in legal documents and say that she's 16 when in fact she's not even 11. And she works these long hours for her. She says she works these long hours for her parents, but also because this was the only option for her to live a stable life in India. And there is a solution to all this, guys. It's being aware, and with being aware, you see that the numbers have dropped. If you really listen carefully to the citations, a lot of them were in the 2007-2009 era, which is when child labor started to drop dramatically. This is just an awareness that I found that speaks for itself. Now that I've spoken to you about the three points that I wanted to point out, I would like to conclude with this. I've spoken to you about education, how education is affected to the child labor, health issues affected by child labor as well, and two personal stories with a solution. The solution is just becoming more aware, guys, because with being more aware, you're more known and prone to speak about child labor. And with that, just saying, if you ever see it or hear about it, just speak up about it. And with you being able to speak up about it, you're giving that person a voice back that was taken away from them probably years ago, like the two kids in Queens. You're giving them that voice that was once taken away from them. And that's it. Thank you.